Hi, welcome to Safe Sex That's Exeter podcast. I'm Evie,
I'm Morgan.
I'm Nina.
and we're here with Belle Whitbread.
Do you want to say hi?
Unfortunately, she was a victim of spiking, so we're here to chat to her about it and her experience post and pre and during.
Perfect.
Yep. So we've got our first question for you. Obviously, if you're comfortable, please could you share the story with us and about the night where you were spiked.
Yeah, of course. Well, it was during Freshers Week, and I'd only been moved in for a couple of days. And I went to this nightclub with some friends who I was hanging out with at the time. And whilst in that club, it was a bit further out. It wasn't near any of our local clubs either. So it was a bit of a sketchy place anyway. And even on the way there, the taxi guy was like very concerned about us going to this club because he'd heard a lot of stories. But anyway, we disregarded that. We went. It was very fun. And then it was probably halfway through the night, I suddenly felt really drained, tired, and I hadn't really drunk that much either. Like, I definitely wasn't drunk. And I remember being in like a big group, and there were two guys with us at the time that I didn't really question. But then I realized after those guys left was when I started to feel that sort of drained, that like almost sick feeling. And then when we got back to my friend's room, we realized there was a needle mark on my back that definitely wasn't there before. We even saw photos of me before, and there was no marks. It wasn't like a bug bite or anything. But yeah, that's kind of how we realized what was happening.
That's so awful. I'm so sorry that happened to you. But were there any other physical signs that you saw when you were spiked, other than obviously feeling sick and seeing the actual needle spiking?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, like I said, I suddenly felt very drowsy, and all my friends that know me, especially back home, they know that I am someone that never throws up. Like, even regardless of alcohol, even if I'm just having an illness or something, like, I very rarely throw up. And that night, I had to run to the toilet because I thought I was about to be sick, and I was retching, and still I didn't throw up because I think that's just the type of person I am. But it was the closest I've ever been to throwing up on a night out at that point in time. And yeah, and then like I said, just really drowsy, kind of not fully with it, even though, like I said before, I know I didn't drink enough to feel that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. That's so awful.
That's so bad. How has this experience affected you mentally and emotionally since that night? And has it changed the way you approach social settings, or do you trust in others?
Um, I think definitely mentally, especially like I said, because it was during Freshers Week, it just made me feel very scared to go out again. And then I would just be in my room when I would see all of my other flatmates and people that I was becoming friends with here going out and looking like they're having a great time. And I was almost mad at myself that I wasn't going out because obviously you just have this pressure anyway to try and go out all the time during that week. And because I wasn't doing that, I thought I was already failing uni and, hadn't even started lectures yet, let alone like the social side of it. So I think that really affected me. And I think even today, I am definitely more cautious when I'm out, not even just for myself. Yeah,
Yeah,
not even just for myself, but with other people as well. I'm very much more on the lookout for my friends I'm out with as well as me.
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So our next question is: in your experience, do you think there's a stigma around talking about spiking incidents? How can we create a more supportive environment for victims? Do you feel?
I think there's definitely a stigma because, especially with these sort of things, there's not really much you can do because at the end of the day, you obviously, unless it escalated, which in my case, luckily did not. But in this sort of case, you never really know who it was. So
Yeah.
there's no course of action for you to take. And I think there is definitely a stigma of you just don't report it because nothing's going to happen. It's just going to put you through more stress. And, it's almost going to just keep harming you and
Yeah.
everyone's going to find out about it. And you're just going to be the girl or the person that was spiked that one time in Freshers Week.
Yeah, of course. Often the people that we spoke to, so when we did our exhibit, a lot of the people said that like they just didn't report it because they feel like they'll either get like victim blamed or like they feel like it won't be taken seriously. They'll just be told like, oh, they were too drunk or something. But it's just so hard because we need to get like all the cases to go up, and then people actually take it seriously and then make the laws better.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what's so scary as well is that you just don't know who did it, like at all. In a lot of
Exactly.
cases, like it could, be like one of your best friends. You would have
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
you just don't know.
It's so scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Wait, we can just edit this out. But wait, you skipped that question, but I don't know.
What steps
But
should
then
someone
like we
take
sort
to
of
Oh,
already
you
went,
sort of-
we
yeah, we
already,
sort of
like, went
answered
over. So should I do 7?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think needs to be done in terms of education and awareness about spiking, both within the community and in venues where this is more likely to occur?
Well, I think like with the community, I think there definitely needs to be a more president of schools talking about it without the
Definitely.
stigma surrounding it, because I think that's where the biggest issue comes in is whenever schools talk about spiking, it's obviously hard because young kids especially just never take anything that seriously, and because they don't think it's going to be them. Like me, when I
Exactly.
was in year 9 hearing about all of this for one of the first times, I would have never have even been concerned that would ever happen to me, because I
Yeah.
thought I was very safe, and I just never thought like it would occur. And obviously I was quite unlucky that it did, and and even though I was careful, and I think that's like another thing I would say as well, is they need to almost talk about the different ways people can be spiked, because it's
Oh,
one thing to
definitely.
get something put in your drink, but it's a whole nother thing when it's something that's entered directly into your body.
Yeah.
So the needle, you don't know where it's been.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's so scary. The
Yeah.
next question is, what do you think can be done by like law enforcement and the government to combat like spiking?
I can completely understand from their perspective that if you don't know who it is, I get there's not much you can, not much action you can take. But I think you almost need to prevent it from happening again. So I think maybe like they could have, better cameras and stuff in the club, because I feel like I get that it's dark as well, but maybe even put some investment into some like night vision ones where you can actually see clearer what's happening, because this happens so many times. I mean, when I went to the hospital afterwards, the nurse who was like giving me some injections to help me, she was saying that I was probably the at least 20th person that came in that day for spiking.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it's like there's just so many cases, but then because often you can't even see the signs until you come home. Like with your case, it's like you did feel sick and you went home, but like did you think like when you got home was when you really realised that you had been spiked? Because that's the thing, like a lot of girls just think like, oh, I've had too much to drink, and then they've left the club, and then all of a sudden they just can't really do anything about it, and that's what's so hard. Like there needs to just be definitely like worse, what's the word? I can't think of the word.
Like repercussions.
Yeah.
Worse repercussions.
So yeah, worse repercussions too if like you can find out that someone's been spiked. It's just like I feel like people wouldn't put in the effort to go to CCTV because they just feel like clubs wouldn't care about it or something.
I feel another thing like the government could do is definitely, so with like knife crime, for example, they impose like a minimum term. So if you're like found to be carrying a knife, you got like 3 years, no questions asked. I feel like they could maybe do that for in spiking cases. Like if you spike someone, you immediately get this, which I think could definitely deter a lot of people.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's just so scary that people like actually like, especially with needle spiking, like people get these needles ready on a night out and
walk in with them.
walk in and are expecting on that night out I'm gonna spike someone because I want to go home with them. Like it is such a scary thing.
It is awful.
Like it definitely needs a lot worse being done than what it's been happening now, because I mean cases are just rising. Like we all thought like here at Exeter like there wasn't really a massive thing about it,
it's
but
only recently suddenly there's been a surge, and also the bouncers here really don't.
Oh, terrible! Yeah.
They're awful.
They're not.
I was going to say, I think another thing, maybe even have better searches at the door, because when they,
Oh
you know, when they
yeah.
pat you down at the door,
They're looking
they
for
don't lay
alcohol.
like
They're not
someone
looking
there.
for
Yeah.
people like
Yeah,
who
they
are
don't
gonna have
Exactly.
needles on them.
And they only really look like they look
It's
into
like a
our
flash
bags.
look,
They
it's
look
not
into
really-
the
yeah,
girls'
there's no
bags. They
detail.
don't even.
Yeah.
And then also the boys, like they never.
Yeah, they
you
never
know?
pat anyone down or
Yeah.
anything. So.
No, that's definitely a good idea. Is like bouncers getting a bit more educated in spiking, because I feel like that's the thing. They all think it's drinking, but now like the needle
Yeah.
spiking is so on the rise. Like there needs to be more repercussions there.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
Do you want to
It's
go?
me. Which question was it? 8?
I just did.
I know. Yeah.
I just did 8.
Yeah. So our next question is, how did you sort of deal with the aftermath mentally? Do you have any recommendations for people who might be struggling, with similar trauma?
Yeah, I think if anything, my mental health really struggled, not necessarily just because of the spiking and the events, but almost more the aftercare, because I had a really bad allergic reaction to one of the jabs that I was given to counteract whatever was in my system, which made me bedbound for the rest of Freshers Week.
That's so horrible.
And just a while after that. So it was hard for me to try and meet new people, and obviously that's all everyone's doing in that week. And in that moment, especially, it feels like you've already missed out on all the friendship groups being formed.
Yeah,
So you're just
that's horrible.
That's so
Yeah.
hard.
I suppose that's another thing people don't realise is like the amount of side effects, not just physical, that it has on people. So
Yeah, exactly. That's
100%.
horrible that it affects you in that way. Like not only on just that night, you're obviously gonna feel unsafe now going to a club, but like also just little things like that was your freshers week. That's what like you should have been there to like have a good time and not have to worry about people spiking you.
Exactly. I think for people who would struggle with similar trauma, I guess my biggest piece of advice now would just to let them know that it does get better. I mean, me now compared to me then, I like it didn't. All the stuff I was struggling with mentally never was a reality. I've now got a really good group of friends here. That, if anything, I mean, I'm someone that does firmly believe that everything happens for a reason, and I think I almost needed that event to let me have a breather, to slow down, to not that I'm saying it's okay, obviously, but for me, I think it was good for me to just have a break and just like it's obviously very overwhelming coming to uni for the first time, and I think I was just very much trying to go, trying to meet people, trying to do all of this, and it was just like as horrible as I felt in that moment, it was good for me looking back to have a minute to slow down, to actually meet people that I am now like good friends with, and hopefully will be friends with for a long time. And so I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is just know it will get better. It's going to suck. It is going to feel awful in that moment and for a good few moments after that, but it always gets better.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. What advice would you oh my god, wait, did you just ask that?
no, I did 9.
Oh yeah. What advice would you give to listeners to prevent themselves or their friends from becoming victims to spiking?
I think it's really hard because obviously in an ideal world you shouldn't have to do anything to prevent yourself from or your friends getting spiked. People should just not do it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately we don't have the luxury of that in this world. But I think my biggest piece of advice I could give to stop yourself from becoming a victim is, as much as it sucks, to just be so aware of your surroundings. If you see, even to this day, if I see someone looking suspicious in a club, I will watch them until I can see what they're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely.
As much as I can. Obviously, there's only so much you can do because you don't want to stop yourself from having a good night.
Exactly. It's horrible that like we have to be the ones to really be aware
always
and
on alert
and like watch out for friends and stuff. But it's just like society right now is what you have to do. We also we had like the drinks covers. I've seen like the scrunchies, or we had like bottle caps. We had those all at our exhibit. So there are ways that you can try and avoid being spiked, but it's just horrible that we can't really tackle the root cause of it.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, and then if, if you think one of your friends or you've been spiked, then just stick with your people. Do
Yeah.
not let yourself get separated.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good advice.
Of course.
That
Yeah, I think
all the
that's
questions.
probably wrapping that up. Is there anything else you would like to say about your experience or to others?
I think, yeah, I think, like I said before, just be aware, but still have fun.
Yeah.
Don't let all of this stuff in the world ruin your night out and you having fun with your friends. But if worst case, really good to call 111. That's what I did when I
Oh, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
good.
realised mine, and they were very helpful, and I was able to get seen pretty much the next day. So
Okay, that's good.
Amazing.
Okay.
Well, I'm so happy you're doing better now.
Thank
Really
you.
good to hear. But yeah, we are obviously very sorry that you were in that situation, and obviously to other listeners who can also relate to this. But I hope this does help them to
Absolutely.
either prevent it or feel a bit better if they've been through that horrible trauma. But yeah,
Well,
this
thank
has
you
been.
so
Thank you
much.
very
Thanks so much for
much.
joining us.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.
I don't know. I don't really know what else to do. Thank you for listening to Safe Sips.
And stop the pricks.
For real, do you want to give
Stop
us a little
the
Safe
pricks.
Sip, Stop the Pricks? That's our name. Safe Sip, Stop
A
the
what?
Pricks.
Save
Safe.
sip. Wait, save sip. Save sips to stop the pricks.
Yeah. Thank you.
There you go.
Amazing.